You must have had a few of those. Must have been wild times.
Fantastic parties, yeah. I mean, I met some incredible people. I will forever respect him and everyone at Playboy for the love and the support.
And you were on giant billboards, you were modelling for Nike, for Reebok, you're earning thousands of pounds a day.
Well...
absolutely like living the dream in terms of a model's lifestyle, and then things began to change.
Well, I've been living in Windsor for 4 years, and I can't get back into Windsor at the moment. The rents have gone ridiculous. I was paying $550 a month, and then the landlord just turned around one day and said I need to be paying $750. And I didn't really have a proper tenancy agreement, and I looked through it and I said, oh, can we get something in writing? And he was like, oh. So in the end, I wrote a tenancy agreement out from off the internet and I got it all signed, but then he went, if you're not going to pay the extra £250 a month, then you're going to have to move out. And I was like, well, you're going to have to give me 4 weeks. I can't just move out. I've got nowhere to go. And I think he thought he could just throw me out there and then... And he said, I've got someone that's going to move in that's going to pay £700-800 a month. So I went and got the 10, and I thought maybe this will be the way I can go for a few months or so, you know, and it was still summer a few months back when I became homeless. So, you know, I got the 10 and I got all the cooking equipment and what have you from the money I got from some of the jobs I did, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go and be a free spirit for a bit, and I'm gonna have to just do my own thing. And you know what, it was the biggest mental relief to be able to have my own space. I mean, that was so liberating, absolutely.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, where we've got all the latest newspapers, the latest opinions and the latest jokes. So join us for the next hour to find out how we're importing violent criminals, taking work from our own home violent criminals, which BBC show is getting a colourblind makeover, and where does Prince Andrew get his money? I'm Stephen Allen, and tonight's comedians, we have Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's get tonight's headlines with Sophia Wensler.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. These are your latest headlines from the GB newsroom. Princess Catherine has made a royal return as she joined the Prince of Wales and the King at the Royal British Legion Festival of Remembrance this evening. It comes as the Queen is missing remembrance events this weekend to ensure she makes a full recovery from a chest infection. William and Kate were both wearing poppies, and they were seen in conversation after taking their seats next to each other at the Royal Albert Hall. Buckingham Palace has said the Princess of Wales would also attend the Remembrance Sunday service at the Cenotaph. Donald Trump has reportedly told Sir Keir Starmer, "You have a friend here," when the Prime Minister spoke with the President-elect after his election victory this week. The Sun newspaper is reporting that the newly elected US President also spoke about his love for the UK and said he is a huge admirer of the royal family. The friendly phone call will fuel hopes that Britain can avoid Trump's proposed tariffs and do its own trade deal with the US. Meanwhile, Joe Biden has invited Donald Trump to meet him in the White House next week. The sitting president and the president-elect will meet in the Oval Office on Wednesday. The post-election invitation is a tradition held between outgoing and incoming presidents. To the Middle East now, where Qatar has threatened to stop mediating a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal until Hamas and Israel show a sincere willingness to return to the negotiating table. Officials have told Hamas that it will no longer host its political office unless the terrorist group and Israel engage in constructive and meaningful talks. The Gulf country has served as a mediator between the two sides since the conflict began last October after Hamas's attacks on Israel. And rebel farmers are threatening to blockade ports and starve supermarkets of food in protest against Labour tax rises. The Telegraph newspaper is reporting a number are also plotting to withhold produce and livestock in a bid to trigger food shortages. This comes as farmers are planning a protest in central London on the 19th of November in response to Rachel Reeves's changes to inheritance tax on farmers. Meanwhile, the Deputy President of the NFU, David Exwood, has said there's many things wrong with the budget and it's threatened food supplies. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories. I'm Stephen Allen. Let's take a quick look to see what Paul and Lewis will have to work with a Sunday front pages. The Observer goes with, "We will oppose Trump's plans to slap tariffs on UK." Mail on Sunday says, "Reveal who stumped up millions for Royal Lodge Andrew Told." The Sunday Express, "Brave Kate returns to work." Sunday Telegraph, "Rebel farmers threaten blockades." Sounds like Star Wars. And Sun on Sunday, "Back on duty" is their headline. And finally, the Sunday Times, £1 billion budget bill for Tesco fuel price rise fears. Lots of words in that one. Let's have a closer look now with the front pages. We go to the Sun, Paul. What are they going on?
We do. Back on duty. And, of course, this is Kate, Princess of Wales. And she's back on duty tonight, or last night, if you're watching this tomorrow, at a Remembrance Sunday event. And, of course, it's great to see Kate back on top form. My dad survived a cancer diagnosis this year. And whilst he is nowhere near as beautiful as Kate, I can appreciate the relief.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, haven't
Yeah, we
Dad?
haven't
He's a
found
handsome
that.
man.
Yeah, well, you have met him. And I don't know if you thought he was beautiful, but we've yet to find the person who does.
I've never met Kate, therefore, out of all of the people, the set of people that I've met, your dad is more attractive.
And he will be very happy about that.
Yeah, I'll do it. You hate the Royals, Lewis. What are you going to do on this one?
But I love Paul's dad.
Yeah.
And Paul's dad loves me. So shout out to Paul's dad. And I like dads. I prefer the moms more than the dads. But I'll go.
That's why that restraining order's in place.
Well, sometimes you got to do what you got to do if there's a dad around. But this is, I don't know what I just said.
I don't know, but let's get back on the story.
Is that she supposedly had cancer, which is horrible to have, but she could have been an educational moment for cancer. The whole thing about cancer is like a lie, is that you shouldn't use chemotherapy, you shouldn't use radiation therapy, you should just cut back your carbs.
Right, and you say this as an experienced oncologist of how many years have you been in practice?
I have read the YouTube. I've seen the YouTube videos, and I've read the thumbnails, and I follow Dr. Seyfried, Seyfried, TN Seyfried.
Yeah, let's encourage that.
Is he the one that the tiger got?
He is the one. I mean, you don't want to joke. You don't want to joke. You don't want to joke about cancer, but
You just did.
Yeah, I didn't joke about it. I was totally serious. You perceived it as a joke. They perceived because you can't. People are thinking, "Oh, he must be kidding." I'm not kidding.
Do you not? I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole too far. Do you not think if it was simply a case of eat fewer carbs, then we wouldn't have needed to end up inventing all of the chemotherapy and radiotherapy that we've got? We would have noticed.
You've fallen into the trap, Steve, by the sound of it.
Yeah, I won't answer. I'll answer it. It's like the farm medical establishment. They make money off of this stuff, and they don't want to believe that it's the things that we're eating that cause not necessarily the cancer to develop, but the cancer to grow.
Yeah, we'll probably move on. Observer, Lewis?
This is also about cancer.
Here we go.
We will oppose Trump's plans to slap tariffs on the UK. This is Reeves. Reeves is the Chancellor. She's like the second in command in the country, though she was never really elected. Or was she elected? I think she's appointed. Is she appointed?
Elected exactly the same way that the Prime Minister is elected. We elect MPs. Yeah. And then the First Minister, the Prime Minister, if you will, is the one in charge of their party.
But who is he the Prime Minister of what? Is he the Prime Minister of the people? Is he the People's Prime Minister?
Of the Parliament.
Or is he the King's First Minister?
Or the Parliament.
Is he the King?
I'd imagine we should talk about the story.
Oh, that's a good point. Well,
no, let him. What are you saying?
The King
I'm auditioning to be Steve
He can
Roll.
only ever crop up and go into the House of Lords. He ain't even allowed in the House of Commons.
Yeah, but
so
isn't the Prime Minister the First Minister of the King?
No.
Okay, we'll have to.
Parliament.
You might be right. I'm not sure about this, but so what happens is
that's what we've got time
is that Donald Trump, no. This is very important. Donald Trump, he says, hey, we're gonna slap tariffs on anybody who's not fair, and it's possible that our balance of trade is not that good. The American is not good with the English, British, and he's saying, hey, if you don't play, all he's doing is saying you better be nice to us. He could have said back in the day, he would have said, we might nuke you, but he's not saying that. He's just saying we might.
Calm down in old age, is he?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to add some sort of credence to this whole programme.
Let him interrupt me, please.
Sorry, Lewis. As you know, I love working with you, and our viewers definitely saw that earlier. But I think Trump could be a huge part of the saving of the British economy. If, for instance, I think I'd be worried if I was Rachel Reeves, because it goes against all of her political ideology to work with Trump. But he holds the Trump cards here, right? He really does. Because if he put 0% tariff on all of the goods trading between the US and the UK, which he could well do, that would put us in a much stronger position than anyone else in Europe. And every indicator suggests he may well do that, because he's not exactly friendly with the EU. He's a big fan of Brexit. He likes Great Britain. He might not be a fan of Keir Starmer.
His mother is Scottish, and she spoke in Celtic, whatever the language they speak up there, Scottish. So he likes everybody likes the British people.
But the newspapers have just spent just shy of a week going, oh, you're in trouble now. Starmer, David Lammy, look what you've done. And now suddenly you've done the 180 flip of, but he loves the UK.
Well, OK, so that's politics, Steve. So the problem with this is, right, what you've got is a cabinet full of people who hate Trump. So this week it was a win for the right, and the right have spent the whole week, I think, probably just enjoying themselves, as I have on X. And, that's all going to die down. And the hard reality of this is we've got to work with Trump. And, of course, it's going to be David Lammy, and it's going to be Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. It has to be. But unless, Trump cannot go, I'm not working with David Lammy, irrespective of what David Lammy thinks. However, if we play it right, we end up with a good deal with the US and very low tariffs by comparison to our competitors, then it could work really well for us.
Yeah.
He's being reasonable.
Yeah, I'm up for that for a bit. Because it's all very well saying, look, I suppose he got rid of a diplomat before. The idea of the foreign secretary could be replaceable. But I suppose he can't do anything other than deal with Keir Starmer, because he is, I believe, the First Minister of the King. Would you say that? Or would you say it's the
I never indulge myself in the Schaeferisms.
But point out the most important thing is that America is the great hope of Britain. If we're not going to be part of Europe, and we don't want to be part of Europe, we don't even want to be part of this government. It's got like barely 30% of the vote. It's got so little.
Yeah, but everywhere else got fewer. That keeps getting trotted out.
That's true. But if you take the Tories and the Labour Party and half of the Lib Dems, you've got a majority rule, and that's going
to add up enough that you can eventually.
And the fact is, Nigel Farage is going to be the Prime Minister.
Our biggest trade partner is the US.
China.
Yeah.
It's just eventually the way it's going to go. They'll take over our routers.
We'll just go to China.
I've got a Huawei router. I'm done for.
Who's the president of China?
Yeah, it's the First Minister.
Yeah.
Telegraph, Paul. What have they got?
The Telegraph. Rebel farmers threaten blockades. Now, I'm a big follower of Adam Brooks of this parish.
Yeah.
He often is on the Patrick Christie show, and he has his ear to the ground on this farmer stuff, and it looks as if there's a bit of a groundswell going on, and this is going to become as much an anti-farmer inheritance protest as it is an anti-government protest. And I think the really interesting thing, it's just not really being discussed, it was a little bit today, is I think the unions are going to become sort of null and void in this whole thing. The unions are in cahoots with Labour, of course they are, and the farming union don't seem to be doing a great deal for the farmers at the moment. It doesn't feel that way to me, and I think that's going to become a huge problem. And second to that, there are a lot of people that are unhappy with the budget and the way it is affecting groups of people, elderly people, students, farmers, Jewish people. It would appear we'll cover that later. But what we're going to see is a lot of it's going to attract. It's going to be like some sort of space dust that's just gravity's causing it to stick together. Steve, you know this stuff.
Coalesce.
Coalesce. That's what's going to happen.
You're talking gravity. He doesn't even think it exists.
Well, that's good. I did start to look at Lewis. I thought, absolutely not. Talk to Steve.
You can't. That's a straw man. No, I think gravity exists. I think that's what it is. But I think gravity does exist. I don't think it's as important as we make it out to be. It's one of the it's the weakest power.
Literally gives us the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, because we believe it's so important. But let me just say this: I like Paul's dad. Huge fan of Paul's dad.
But I just time travelled. Oh boy, I'm Scott Bakula, but I've gone back to the start of the episode. What?
No, I saw a play that he was in. I don't know.
Done it. You're right.
No, you shouldn't have mentioned it. But like you say, I agree with it. What's happening is like this is what brought down the Allende regime in Chile for Pinochet. Okay.
Geopolitics and Lewis Schaefer.
Yes, it did. Back in 1973 or something, which is the farmers or whatever, the truckers, they all got together and they brought the country down. We need food. We need British food. We're not there where everything is imported, like we're Qatar or something. We need food, and it's quite possible that they could make our lives miserable.
He more like. Now look at that.
Unbelievable stuff.
People don't want to see your funniness.
I know they don't. I
They
get
don't
those
want to
tweets.
see.
Mail on Sunday, Lewis. What have they got?
The Mail, which is a fantastic newspaper, really a lot of news for very little money. It's £2.10 on a Sunday, but if it's only £1.25 if you're a subscriber. Reveal who's. People want to know.
I don't.
Now, people want to know how much stuff costs. And I've been accused of that. That's a message to my Iranian bosses by telling them numbers. And a big shout out to Clenindo?
Yeah.
From Star Wars again.
and Wales.
From Sunny Clinton. Anyway, reveal who stumped up millions for Royal Lodge, Andrew told. And Andrew is the prince. He used to be the second in line. Maybe he was the third or something, and now he's like a nothing. And so the king is letting him use this 30 million, not letting him use, he signed a lease for 50 years for this 30-room house in Windsor, whatever. And the king says, we don't like you anymore. You're useless. You've been accused of some horrible stuff, and we want you to move because it's costing us a fortune. We could give it to some other useless. But this is the way so people are asking, he's gotten money.
There was a delta between, the cost. Basically, Prince Charles, our king, was saying this is going to cost X amount of pounds to do, and we're not going to give it to you. You can move into Frogmore Cottage. It's a lovely big cottage just down the road. Harry and Meghan Markle have just done it out in whatever they've done it out in, pink stuff, I expect.
I imagine if she refurbed it, it'll say like "Love, Laugh, Live."
Yeah, it will 100% say that all over the place. Empowerment, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Stuff that we really don't care about. However, he hasn't done that. He's actually stumped up the money himself, and everyone's like, "How have you done that, Andrew? You haven't even got a paper round, mate."
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there've been many scandals about him. Recently, I saw one online that apparently he had 10,000 men.
That's another prince. That's another prince. People in America are not going to understand. I know. Yeah, I guess it is. That's right.
It's going to make the clip reel. I guarantee it's a good joke.
It is a very good joke. But why does he tell the jokes? I wish you were more like Josh.
I don't know. We'll quickly try and see if we can move on for this. The Daily Star Sunday, Paul. What's their big news?
Unbelievable. Festive crisis as we run out of fat, bearded men in red suits. There's one here with I ain't got a beard now, but I've got a blue suit. Dear Santa, this year can I please have a pony, an Xbox, and 33,000 more Father Christmases? And of course, there's a shortage of men working with children. If you express an interest in doing this, the police will check your hard drive. You can't just walk into a department store now and say, "I want to be the Father Christmas. Where's your kids?" You can't do it no more. And perhaps it's for a good reason.
Yeah. Good point. Well,
I guess, but they're looking for guys with beards. I mean, there are plenty of guys with beards. Of course, they're probably not Christians, but they still...
I'll just say quickly, I had a problem with this last year because I was taking my son to, this toddler group, And I was the only dad there. This is the problem if you're the main carer dad type figure. So it's me and my son and then loads of mums. And the woman who was running it was saying around this time of year, we're looking for someone to volunteer to be Father Christmas. Anyone want to... It's just so awkward. Yeah. She's really dropping hints like, anyone who's got the height for it? Has everyone got the Adam's apple? Anyone with a performing background? So eventually I did the only thing I could do and we stopped going. That's that. Right, still to come. Starmer and Hamas have something in common. Awkward. Bad news for Ukraine, and some immigrants should have their criminal past checked. We're looking at you, Schaefer. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
The latest Channel 4 Dispatches documentary has revealed details about the royal family's finances, including reports that private royal estates have received millions of pounds of income from public bodies and charities.
Yeah, it's been claimed that the Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall portfolios have generated almost £50 million.
Well, the contracts with public bodies said to include a £37 million agreement with the Ministry of Justice, an £11.4 million deal between Guy's and St Thomas's NHS Trust. This is what appeared on the programme last night.
Charles and William aren't telling you about their secret millions.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for paying your rent every now and then.
Their private estates, the Duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, make Charles and William £50 million a year. But they have repeatedly refused to reveal exactly which properties they own.
Can we have a report on the list of properties?
I don't see why.
I'm not really shocked that they're making money. That's the whole point of them, isn't it?
Morning, and good morning, Stephen. Absolutely, I'm not shocked either. And also, as a former butler, I was also a duchy rentee. I used to rent one of the properties, and we were always aware of the property portfolio. I don't think it's kind of a bit news thing. Obviously, part of the, if you like, the business side is these two duchies, Cornwall and Lancaster, and the late Queen obviously was the Duke as well of Lancaster, and now you've got the Prince was obviously, or the King, when he was Prince, had the duchy, and these properties, portfolios as well. I mean, obviously they make money. I mean, but they've been around for, I think they go back to George III, if not before.
GB News, the People's Channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Stephen Allen, joined tonight by comedians Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. You can have your say by going to gbnews.com/your say. Thank you for your messages. Patrick gets in touch with one of them and says, Lewis's hair is starting to look scary. If it grows any longer, it will need its own postcode. I've got to be honest, I find that as offensive. Messaging that in front of a bald man. I'll take that to HR later, but you can keep them coming in. Continue with your messages. Meanwhile, back into the papers. Paul, The Observer, Qatar says that Hamas may have to move out from where they've been staying, which I imagine they'll find triggering.
Yeah, well, triggering could be a dangerous word there. But Qatar to close Hamas office. Interesting, they've got their own office. Not many terrorist groups have got a plush office.
To be fair, they need landlines. Yeah. They ain't got pages.
Can't use pages. Yes, a good point. So Qatar to close Hamas office over lack of good faith in Israel-Gaza ceasefire talks. So this is the Gulf states government is stopping mediation efforts. And until warring parties show a sincere willingness to reach a deal. So quite clearly here, Qatar are getting fed up with the political games, and I think we all are at this stage. And it's sad to say, but I don't think the mediation has worked anyway. At the point that Hamas were never going to give back the terrorists to Israel, it was going to be all-out war, because no self-respecting sovereign nation is going to accept the attack that happened on October the 7th and not try and get its people back. And that has led to the war that we see today. And it gets forgotten a little bit, but that's how we found ourselves to this point. So I'm not sure where we go from here. I don't think... Obviously, it's too late. Very, very sadly, a lot of those hostages will never come back now, and Hamas aren't really people to be negotiated with, and Israel are way too far into this now. It's very difficult. You can't just speak, oh, well, you know, I'm ever so sorry. They are going to try and obliterate Hamas and anyone that protects them.
Your thoughts on this, Lewis?
My thought is that Paul's an ignorant slut. Is that he's so wrong.
But what about this story?
This has to do with...
general.
Has to do with... Because of this story. Because it's the Observer, and they're trying to... And Hamas is trying to get a little pride out of this, when the truth is Donald Trump was elected president, and he didn't even need to call up Qatar. He's basically said the message... Biden didn't ask you to remove the Hamas offices. This business of you being in the middle is complete garbage. The only reason you're acting this way is to keep because you hate the Saudis. Basically, Qatar is friends with with the Iranians, and the Saudis, which had joined the Abrahamic Accord with Israel, and so the truth is that the world is shaking because of Donald Trump, and that's what this is. It's very simple. Make it seem like Qatar is doing this for a reason. They want to keep the Americans having their military base there, because as long as they have their military base there, the Saudis will not blow them up.
So do you see this as the end of a negotiation, or trying to get negotiation to work better, saying, like, come on, if you don't actually do something productive, then that's when it...
No, this has nothing to do with negotiations. This has only to do with Qatar being a tiny little island off the coast of Saudi Arabia and wanting to be nice to the United States of America, which has basically taken over their island nation with military bases.
Normally, I'd give you the right to reply after being called that, but I think you probably just enjoy it.
No, it's fine.
Crack on. Right then, Lewis, to the Sunday Telegraph. Did you know that people coming to the UK self-certify that they're not violent criminals? Because, yeah, they'll break the law, but they'd never lie on a form watertight.
Yeah, well, this is the Telegraph, and it's a Sunday's paper, and murderers and rapists from Eastern Europe allowed into Britain despite criminal records. What do you expect? You know the British government has been Mr. like namby-pamby nice, and they need to be a bit tougher than they were.
But what could they do?
They could say, OK, write down on the form, we're going to check you out.
Yeah, but the problem is, in the article, it points out that the records of people's criminal pasts, it's not easy to share. It's not like one networked system where you can just type in the surname, oh, see what you got. It's difficult to find out whether these people have criminal records from their home countries.
So what you do as a British nation is you keep them on an island off the coast of Britain, and let's say that island is called Mauritius.
It's not just migrants, this is visitors. This is people popping over for a week. So someone popping over for a weekend to come and have a look at, you know, the tourist sites has 2 weeks in Rwanda first.
But in the United States of America, they make people wait in line at the U.S. Embassy, wherever they are, to fill out this form.
You make a good point. Anyone who's travelled to the US, it's quite terrifying to get your way through. Well, it was when I last went. Which is now 20 years ago, nearly 18 years ago. But this, like Steve said, when I first read this, I'm like, oh, you know, we'll just let these people in. But these are visas. I had a little problem with the language that's written in this article, because it says there's a weakness with the UK visa system. It's not a weakness, it's an abject failure if we're able to allow rapists and murderers in. Some, by the way, 700 cases in the last 3 years. However, as with all these problems, it's very difficult to come up with a solution. This isn't like illegal immigration where you're trying to stop the boats, because there is a solution there. Just don't allow them in and deport them back. That's a solution, whether you like it or not. However, with visa application, these are people who are just coming over here for a holiday. You know, even rapists, manslaughterers and murderers enjoy a holiday, Lewis, as you well know.
Yeah.
But But
don't they have to?
You well know. Wow.
This is the second time he called me something horrible like this.
I didn't call you that. Oh, even I'm starting to say
I didn't say which one it was.
He drops the S word and look what you was.
I was angry. I was angry.
I was making a joke about him being an
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I won't take it back.
You are right. You are right.
Thank you.
I didn't read the story as closely as I should have because it's one of those typical stories that is like, oh my God, what do you expect in this country?
Well, it's proof, if there was ever needed, that we, whatever side of the political aisle you're on, you can get caught up in your echo chambers.
Yeah.
And when you're reading these stories, particularly as, I have my own political bent, I was reading this thinking, oh, blooming heck, this is outrageous. But this is about the visa system. I'm not sure how you do this. It's really tricky. It's like a really interesting story for the Telegraph to chuck in at this point in the discussion, because you're like, oh, legitimate travel's a problem as well.
Yeah, don't leave your echo chamber, though. It's terrifying.
I'm not going out there, Steve.
But you're saying that the British murderers and whatever other people, bad people, they can go to their country and not be checked either.
We wouldn't want British people being checked.
Am I right?
Yeah. Paul, the Sunday Telegraph claims that Starmer allowed anti-Semitism to deteriorate now. If anything, it's going from strength to strength.
Yeah, good point. There's quite a lot to digest here, actually. I'm going to try and get through it as quickly as possible. So Starmer accused of allowing anti-Semitism in Britain to deteriorate, as you said, Steve. So this is a Labour campaign group, which is the Labour Against Anti-Semitism, known as LAS. Not LADS, LAS. Labour campaign group argues the PM's actions have added to a climate of intolerance and hate against British Jews. And the spokesman for them said, as Prime Minister, in a letter to the Prime Minister, I should say, as Prime Minister, you have set the tone and allowed an already unacceptable state of affairs to further deteriorate. And they have said that their policies, such as decisions to reinstate UNRWA funding, despite evidence they are intertwined with Hamas, the arms embargo and the ICC arrest warrant, are in reality performative, but they add to the mood music that Israel is persona non grata. And it's difficult not to argue with this. It's another scathing report from within the Labour Party about the Labour Party being anti-Semitic, or at least contributing to that. And you can't help but see, I think actually Keir Starmer, and I don't say a lot of good things about Keir Starmer, but I have seen him tread a fine tightrope on this. He hasn't come down on pro-Palestine side. He has come down occasionally on Israel, and he has been very protective of that when he's speaking about it. But he hasn't done enough. And what he does do is he gets involved in identity politics, and we end up with a problem.
20 seconds on this, Lou?
Is that what do you expect? It's Labour. Labour's an anti-Semitic political group, really.
You didn't need 20 seconds. Look at that. No. You can manage to do it in 7. Amazing.
But then again, I might not be sure.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's not expect too much. Still to come, they are coming for our poppies and universities. And is colourblind casting and TV going too far? Paul will be played by Frank Bruno. This is Headliners.
Not me, Frank.
GBNews.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's been a cloudy day for most of us, as it has been over the past couple of weeks. But there is some brighter interludes on the way as we head in towards next week. But before we get there, these weather fronts out towards the west of the UK will slowly push their way eastwards over the rest of the weekend before we see high pressure redeveloping and bringing us some brighter weather. Back to Saturday evening, though, and generally a cloudy and damp end to the day for the most of us. Some clear spells persisting across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps eastern parts of England as well. But we see this weather front arriving in the northwest into the early hours of Sunday morning, bringing some heavy rain in places. Generally a mild night for the most part, but turning a little chillier where we see those clear spells, perhaps even a touch of frost to start with across eastern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, to start on Sunday, generally a cloudy and damp day, particularly for western parts of Scotland. This band of rain perhaps turning heavy at times, particularly over any high ground. And for northern England and Northern Ireland too, generally a very cloudy and bit of a damp start to the day. For central, southern parts of England, parts of Wales, southwest England as well, generally a bit of a dry start, albeit quite a cloudy start. There will be some clearer spells, particularly across eastern parts of England. We might see some sunshine here through the morning, but for the most part, it will be a cloudy start to the day on Sunday. That weather front across parts of Scotland sinks its way south and eastwards as we go in towards Sunday afternoon. And for the most part, it'll be another cloudy and damp day for many of us. However, behind that frontal system, across Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, there will be some brightness through the afternoon. Temperatures up a touch compared to what we saw on Saturday, highs of 14 or 15 degrees in the south. Into the start of Monday, that weather front clears away towards the southeast, and then it does leave a much brighter day than we've seen recently. High pressure very much in charge, bringing us those settled conditions and plenty of sunshine on offer, particularly compared to what we've seen over recent days. That sunshine looks like it's lasting into Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday as well, and those temperatures are still around about average, but feeling pleasant in any sunshine.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's do a quick recap of those front pages. Observer talks about opposing Trump's plan to slap tariffs on the UK. Mail on Sunday reveal who stumped up the money for Prince Andrew. The Sunday Express, brave Kate returns to work. The Telegraph, rebel farmers threaten blockades. And the Sun on Sunday, back to duty. And the Sunday Times, £1 billion budget bill for Tesco fuel price rise fears. Lewis, inside the papers, the Sunday Telegraph. Remembrance Day could be decolonised. Good, because no one wants to see your colon in the middle of it. Hang on, it's a decolonised story.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get, that joke doesn't work for you because you're too smart to fall for that. People are saying, why is he trying to... And first of all, why do you have to read the headlines for the news? Do you think they forgot? Do you think they come on this program to watch headlines for the news? That's obviously some big meeting they had here. Oh, let's be more like the BBC and dull.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, I was going to say, Lewis, I have enjoyed working with you, Lewis.
A carriage clock or a watch? What should we buy?
Anyways, this is they're handing out this organization called the PPU. Remembrance Day should be decolonized, say campaigners. And it's an organization called Peach Pledge Union is selling white poppies for all the people of the outside world who've died. And the people who are handing out the red poppies, which I am wearing, are saying, hey, we should think about people who died fighting for Britain, like all those Americans. But, screw those people. Not screw the people. You don't screw them. But if you buy a white poppy, the money doesn't go to the British soldiers.
Thing here, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, Lewis is right with his cheap poppy. It
is a lovely poppy, Steve. It really is lovely.
What does that mean?
No, the point is, paper ones on TV just end up looking rubbish. You take your jacket off, and then they
don't last a minute, do they?
So you go with the metal ones. Surely it's one of the things that do we need to decolonise Remembrance Day?
No, no, we don't.
Yeah.
The answer to that is absolutely we don't. And the important thing to remember here is the people making that argument couldn't care less for those people. They're not supporting our armed services. Not at all. They're not really supporting those that have fallen in protecting, our safety in the past. So we can dismiss them, particularly this weekend. We can absolutely dismiss them. It means nothing to hear from them.
Right. They're to make British people look bad. That's what it is.
They're grifters, and they will grift all year long, and you will see them grift, whether it's Christmas, Easter, Remembrance Sunday. They will go for anything that's Anglo or Christian or anything that supports the armed services or anything that makes us great as British people.
And the only immigrants that I care about are the Angles, the Saxons, the Jews, the Picts.
Oh, I was listening to that
Celts,
episode.
Yeah.
Those are the immigrants that matters. Maybe the Scots, wherever they came from.
You're thinking
maybe
about
the
people
Romans.
who fell in those wars.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. But does anybody even mention 1066?
No, not often. Not on this show.
No.
Paul, the Mail on Sunday, the TV adaptation of The Mirror and the Light goes a bit Mirror and the Darker.
Well, yes. BBC branded jaw-achingly stupid over controversial decision to cast black and minority ethnic actors in anticipated final series of Tudor drama Wolf Hall. So here we go again, chaps. The Mirror and the Light, something I was unaware of, the TV adaptation of the final book of Damien Hillary's Wolf Hall trilogy, broadcast on BBC One on Sunday, with several black actors in very significant roles. And I couldn't care less.
Oh, nice, yeah.
I absolutely couldn't care. I mean, we're at a point where men can get a gold medal for punching women in the face all summer. Well, I don't care if Idris Elba plays blooming a chambermaid in a Tudor... And honestly, I don't care anyway. We've covered these stories for a living for 3 years now, and I didn't care very much in the first place, and I really don't care now.
Yeah. Idris Elba.
Yeah, I went with that.
Yeah,
I thought that was deliberate, by the way.
Right.
If you're going to pick on someone, don't pick on Idris Elba.
I know. Great
I'm
man.
sorry, Idris Elba.
The next James Bond will be beating you up.
Yeah, he will be. He could beat me up as well. I could
get a gold medal.
I might be able to eat him, though, so you better watch out.
What do you think about this? Does it bother you? Are you also resigned to, like, yeah, this is what TV is now?
Well, as you know, I'm deeply ensconced in the film industry myself, and they've hired me to play any actor. As you ask an actor, they should play anything. They should play anything, but if they can get away with it, if they can't get away with it, I remember Dr. Zhivago was played by an Egyptian guy, he's played a Russian. If you can get away with it, maybe you should do it. But the truth is why are you giving the BBC any money? Because they don't deserve your money. And we're giving them money because all they're doing is this has a political context. It's like saying, look at how brown we are. We're not just a white country anymore. And the truth is that we're not, but that doesn't mean we've got to, whatever. I don't even know what. But
thought we were going to end the sentence there. No,
nearly, Steve.
I didn't have a sentence.
No, never mind. Well, Lewis, the Mail on Sunday, and Oxford University to be decolonised. Good. No one wants to see you colon. I've done it again.
It doesn't work for you. You're too smart, and the audience knows you're smart, and that's why you're not getting ahead, because you're too smart.
That's not why.
And you're making jokes all the time with you and your jokey jokes. Anyway, Oxford University. They got £3.5 million, which is about $4 million, decolonising the curriculum and encouraging reporting of microaggressions. When there are no microaggressions, when there are no aggressions, you've got to
Of course, Steve and I have discussed the possibility of nanoaggressions in the future, and way beyond that, because
the femtoaggressions.
When you get to a point where as a Western society, where you solve lots and lots of problems, this is where you find yourself. And they say here the academic chiefs are aiming to close the attainment gaps between black and white students. When will we learn that dividing people into their skin colour, we will never solve any attainment?
And you won't win an election for president of the United States again.
No, you certainly won't.
But to that point, do you not think there's the bit where they bring up the stats? So they want to try and close that attainment gap. Whereas, in terms, it was 22% from basically non-white admitted to Oxford University, 18% of the population. So 22, last time I checked, bigger than 18. Not only has the gap been closed, it's then overlapped a bit.
It has, and I think there's been some bias in that direction. And you can argue till the cows come home. We don't even know where the cows are, and we don't even know whether they're coming home.
No,
but
they're on a farm, so they're marching on Downing Street every day now.
Where are they getting the money from, Oxford University, to spend $3.3 million? They're getting it from the central government of Britain. The British people are actually paying. They get a lot of money from foreign students, but a lot of it comes from all that money that people are getting from the British government to pay for Oxford. So I think this is a problem with centralization. You can tick that box. This country's too centralized. The universities are owned by the state.
Did you not get in? That's got the sound of a guy who was like sent to a former polytechnic. Paul, The Independent, why cancel culture should be cancelled.
Yeah, interesting. Cancelled to review cancel culture in universities after ostracised Oxford student takes own life. So a coroner has called on the government to examine the prevalence of cancel culture on university campuses after ruling that a 20-year-old Oxford student took his own life after being ostracised by his peers. And he was ostracised. This poor young man was known as Alexander Rogers, and he was ostracised after a former partner expressed discomfort after a sexual encounter with him. And I think, first of all, we should pay tribute to this young man. It's an awful situation to find yourself in, particularly at that age. We've lost a talented young person. He was obviously at one of our best universities, so his future, I'm sure, would have been bright. It's a tragic case. But the irony for me is this is in The Independent. The Independent and The Guardian are some of the biggest purveyors of cancel culture. And now they're trying to tell us this story as if they care. They don't care. And universities, the petri dishes where cancel culture is grown, they don't care either. We really have to tackle this stuff, OK? You can see empathy from every side. The guy fumbling his way as a young man with a young woman can easily get himself into this trouble. His friends ostracise him because they know, as a society, that is a terrible thing to be accused of. So they back off.
But isn't that the thing here? This is not really a university problem. This is within that bit of society. It's a social thing that his friends ostracised him. You can't, like, put a rule in place, can you?
I think what you can do is create an element of tolerance within society where young people...
Who is doing that?
Well, who does that? We all do that collectively.
But who?
We don't divide and rule. The Guardian and The Independent will put everyone in their silos and say, that's bad, and they will binarise everything.
Paul, you ignorant... I love you, Dad. Who's going to put that into force? The force is, like Steve said,
you're right.
It's a horrible situation. It's a horrible situation. But you can't have the government come in and say, "Oh, you've got to be nice to this kid." That's even worse.
No, I don't think so. I'm talking here about the media.
And the point is, as someone myself who have been Me Too'd and marginalised, and people get mad at me for all these things. And Me Threed, and I'm on this channel and doing this thing, and people say, we don't want to talk to you because you're on GB News. That's the kid. The guy's going to university, he's got to learn something about life. He shouldn't have committed.
I've ended up on the same side of the argument as Louis Schaefer, so I'm worried, and I'm going to go and check some things in a second. Meanwhile, still to come, a surgeon gets cut for being cheeky, women fighting and the health implications of staying up late. So please do stay up a little bit later. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
On the 8th of October at Battersea Arts Centre, a new orchestra launched its inaugural season. The orchestra, which is named Chromatica, is formed of some of the best young musicians in Britain. They're due to perform in traditional venues and in community spaces. The aim is to bring their youth and dynamism to a wide repertoire of music. Predominantly, they'll work with emerging conductors who will have the chance to shape the orchestra and its repertoire. To share her experiences of bringing the ensemble together, I'm joined by the violinist and Chromatica Orchestra lead, Maren Bosma. To what extent is this novel? To what extent is this new ground?
Well, new ground, it is new ground in a sense that this is a completely new orchestra. Obviously, in the current sort of cultural climate, it's not really easy to set up a new orchestra. And so, in that sense, it's a novelty for us to kind of try and carve out our space in the current climate of musical orchestras and musicians in Britain.
Yes, I mean, it's quite odd in a way to think of a new orchestra because the ones that we have tend to be struggling and numbers indeed have been reduced. I used to be associated with an orchestra which unfortunately went under. You've got some private backing for this.
Yeah.
Why do you think the private backers have been willing to give you support? What is it that they see as your unique selling proposition?
Well, Chromatica Orchestra essentially is an early career orchestra. So we're formed of all sort of top musicians who've graduated in, say, the last sort of 5 to 10 years. Because everyone is of that generation, there is a sort of enthusiasm and dynamism that we bring to the stage I think is quite unique. The orchestra's mission, it's really focused on creating opportunities for young emerging musicians.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Don't forget, you can get involved and have your say on gbnews.com/your say. Here's one about the colourblind casting on the BBC. A message that says, well, it bothers me, Paul. Stop changing history for this DEI nonsense. That's one comment who gets in touch and disagrees with you. So
Unbelievable. That's the first person to ever disagree with me in 2.5 years.
Yeah. First time you went less gammony, and they've swooped.
I know, I've really made a mistake. I'm ever so sorry, mate, but I am so bored of it.
They can sniff weakness. Paul, the Mail on Sunday, and you can't call a woman a bit of a goer these days, so I am shocked that you are still employed here.
I'm not allowed to speak to women. Surgeon suspended after quipping, blimey, you must be a bit of a goer, to colleague who told him she had 6 children. So this is Stephen Kirkler, 68, prime age for these type of jokes, lost his job as chief surgery at the NHS hospital after being found guilty of serious professional misconduct and suspended from the medical register for 5 months. And he has form, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, there are some of the things he said, which I think I'll make an editorial decision. It works better if you read it out in a northern accent. I don't know where he's actually from, but he said she was wearing no tights, and he said, "You got your legs out. It reminds me of a T-shirt I once owned. It said, 'Nice legs. What time do they open?'" Then she said, apparently she said that for some reason, then she said she's got 6 children, which very much feels like that's not the thing I would have brought up after that joke.
Absolutely not.
And then he went with, do you have a TV? You need to get a new hobby. And then he said, blimey, you must be a bit of a goer. Which I think just sounds like you've gone to the wrong club.
But this is why the NHS was better in the 90s. Because what happened then is you measured as a doctor or a surgeon on your ability to be a doctor or a surgeon, rather than your absolutely terrible sense of humour. You just know this guy, these were 4 of the 6 jokes that he's got, and he's just going to wheel them out. Because he saw his mate Dave do them in the pub. Dave gets a laugh because people are too scared to not laugh at Dave. And he thought, I'm going to do this in front of my colleagues at work, forgetting that Stephen Kirkler, 68, is not funny at all.
Lewis, you say inappropriate things to some of the women working here. Do you have sympathy?
I do not, and I've learned my lesson. I've got a little bit of a sympathy. First of all, he's an NHS doctor at 68 years old. You feel horrible. The whole place is falling apart, the NHS. And not that I'm not saying it was ever any good. I don't think maybe it wasn't.
We don't want to get rid of more NHS doctors, do we?
You know what? I think we got to get rid of 95% of the doctors.
You just asked the wrong guy.
You asked the wrong guy, yeah. No, they do some good work, the NHS, but they don't deserve...
Do you think someone should be fired for saying these things, or suspended, rather, for saying these things?
I think yes. I think actually, yes, because women have to work in a safe place, which is why we shouldn't have women at work.
So that course worked. I'm glad we sent you on it. Paul, the Sunday Telegraph, how do women fight? And I won't tell you what I was Googling for when I found this one.
Compared to that laugh, competitive women more likely to tell others to get shorter haircuts to make them less attractive. Lots of assumptions going on there. Competitive women are more likely to recommend shorter haircuts to other females to make them less attractive, a study has found. And researchers discover they would do so even if they didn't know the woman, just to sabotage any potential woman around her man.
Or maybe you could just say that women are nasty. Maybe you could
Well,
say
it lends
that.
itself to your theory that
Yes.
women are horrible.
Yeah, they're horrible because they're telling everybody, but I don't believe that. How do they know what's in a woman's mind? I've been around for 60 years. I have no idea what women are thinking, and I'm not pretty sure that women don't even know what they're thinking. So
I don't know what women are thinking, but I know what women are thinking when they're around you, Lewis.
And there are lots of women who could get a haircut. You know, not all of them, but some of them could get a haircut.
This is the perfect panel to discuss this.
It is. Although in the remaining minute and a bit, I don't want to not give you the chance to do this one, Lewis. The Observer, working late is bad for your health, especially if you work here. It's got the word diabetes in it. You'll love this.
Yeah, it says heart attacks, diabetes, divorce, tackling the dangers faced by UK's army of night workers, which I think we're almost there.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say so.
We're here at 11 to 12. It's just saying it's unsafe because it's not just food is killing us. There's not enough sun in the world. We don't get enough, I wouldn't even say exercise, just going out and running, walking around. And that's what it's saying. We don't know. They know that when you mess with the, what do they call that? The Biden, the pattern.
Circadian rhythms.
Circadian rhythms.
The Biden. That was
The Biden.
Oh, yeah, the sleep-related thing, Biden.
Yeah,
He loves to sleep.
Yeah. Well, that's true. When you start messing with things, I don't know what I'm saying now.
No, I thought you were going to say, no, it's all about sugar, but yeah, late nights.
And it is about sugar because you're up late at night. I go home. When I go home, I always get something to eat because you think, well, who's watching? But they're watching.
I mean, I'd love to add to that, Steve. I know you've got to wrap up, and I'm not sure I could break any of that down.
What do you have to kill the show by? You just killed the show right now. Just say something.
We've got 20 seconds if you want.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, I mean, of course, we all work nights, and just look no further than me to see what problems that can produce.
We should show a picture of you on the first time we did a show.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
It's too much for the producers to ask the producers right now, but yeah, there will be a difference, that's for sure.
Yeah. And the point is we're going to stay up all night, and then we go home. We're going to be yelled at by our girlfriends or wives or male lovers.
You're projecting. You're definitely projecting. That's what's happened there. Well, the show's nearly over, so let's take a quick look at Sunday's front pages. The Observer, we will oppose Trump's plans to slap tariffs on UK. The Mail on Sunday goes with reveal who stumped up millions for Royal Lodge, Andrew told. Sunday Express, brave Kate returns to work. The Sunday Telegraph goes with rebel farmers threaten blockades. Sun on Sunday, back on duty, another royal story. And the Sunday Times, finally, £1 billion budget bill for Tesco fuel price rise fears. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to my guests, Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. Josh Howe will be back tomorrow with Lewis and Jonathan Cogan. If you're watching at 5, stay tuned. Breakfast on the way next. Till the next one, have yourself a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It's been a cloudy day for most of us, as it has been over the past couple of weeks. But there is some brighter interludes on the way as we head in towards next week. But before we get there, these weather fronts out towards the west of the UK will slowly push their way eastwards over the rest of the weekend before we see high pressure redeveloping and bringing us some brighter weather. Back to Saturday evening, though, and generally a cloudy and damp end to the day for the most of us. Some clear spells persisting across northern parts of Scotland, perhaps eastern parts of England as well. But we see this weather front arriving in the northwest into the early hours of Sunday morning, bringing some heavy rain in places. Generally a mild night for the most part, but turning a little chillier where we see those clear spells, perhaps even a touch of frost to start with across eastern parts of Scotland. Otherwise, to start on Sunday, generally a cloudy and damp day, particularly for western parts of Scotland. This band of rain perhaps turning heavy at times, particularly over any high ground. And for northern England and Northern Ireland too, generally a very cloudy and bit of a damp start to the day. For central, southern parts of England, parts of Wales, southwest England as well, generally a bit of a dry start, albeit quite a cloudy start. There will be some clearer spells, particularly across eastern parts of England. We might see some sunshine here through the morning, but for the most part, it will be a cloudy start to the day on Sunday. That weather front across parts of Scotland sinks its way south and eastwards as we go in towards Sunday afternoon, and for the most part, it'll be another cloudy and damp day for many of us. However, behind that frontal system, across Northern Ireland, western parts of Scotland, there will be some brightness through the afternoon. Temperatures up a touch compared to what we saw on Saturday, highs of 14 or 15 degrees in the south. Into the start of Monday, that weather front clears away towards the southeast, and then it does leave a much brighter day than we've seen recently. High pressure very much in charge, bringing us those settled conditions and plenty of sunshine on offer, particularly compared to what we've seen over recent days. That sunshine looks like it's lasting into Tuesday and perhaps Wednesday as well, and those temperatures are still around about average, but feeling pleasant in any sunshine.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There's only 2 weeks remaining to win Christmas on Us this year. There's £20,025 in tax-free cash. There's £5,000 to spend on gifts for all the family. There's £500 to spend in your favourite supermarket. And a festively themed GB News goodie bag will get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2, or post your name and number to GB09 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 22nd of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night, and this is the Influenza 5. No, I'm joking, it's a 5. But I have